Hello, I'm Stephanie, aka Literati Medium, and today we're going to talk about what I read in February and what I plan on reading in March. So the first book that I finished in February, I actually started in January, and it was an audiobook, Book of Time by Guillaume Prevost. I'm sorry if I said that wrong. I'm not very good with French. Sam Faulkner's father has never been away so long, and especially not over Sam's birthday without any contact. When Sam finds an ancient statue, an old coin, and a book in the basement of his father's antique shop, he finds himself traveling through time to retrace his father's steps. So this is the first book in the Gate of Time trilogy, which is a middle grade series. I've had the second book on my shelf for ages because I got it in a library sale, but had never read it. And I was so excited when I was looking for a next audiobook to see that the first one was on Audible. I also have to give a shout out to Steph from Steph's Bookish World because I know she loves books set in Canada and she's been really into middle grade recently. So Steph, if you're interested in an older middle grade, this is a good one set in Canada. I was actually surprised at how much I enjoyed this book. Because the first book travels to 4 different times in the space of one book, along with the actual time setting of the book, it felt a bit rushed, especially at the beginning of the book. But Sam's a really engaging protagonist, and I found that I really liked that the book didn't gloss over the consequences of him going on these time travel journeys. The audiobook for this book is also really good. I gave this book 4 stars, and I will definitely be continuing with the series. The second book that I finished in February was The Iron Crown by L.L. MacRae. When Fen wakes up in the middle of a muddy bog, the last thing he expects is to run into a dragon spirit. Because he has no memories, he must rely on the first people he meets, Kalidra and her partner Giziel. I'm sorry if I'm saying those names wrong. The 3 set off on a journey to attend the funeral of Kalidra's father, and along the way, they discover that an old enemy is rising again. So this was my first foray into indie published books. I'm so grateful that I got picked by Escapist Book Tours to review this book. I won't talk about it too much in this video because I did write an in-depth blog post on it, which I will link down in the description box below. This was a very enjoyable book for me in terms of the plot and the world building, though I will admit the character development needs some work. Since it is only the first book, I am giving it a little bit of leeway here because I'm looking forward to see how the characters transform as the story continues. So I ended up giving this book 3 stars. Let's talk about Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. Noemi receives a panicked letter from her recently married cousin begging for somebody to come and save her. Noemi heads to High Place, an estate in the Mexican countryside. There, she will try to figure out the mysterious illness that has taken hold of her cousin, as well as uncover the intrigues of the family that owns the house. First, let me just say, the audiobook for this is amazing. Highly recommend. I actually read this as a buddy read with 2 of my friends who aren't on BookTube, and I breezed through this. Like, we were only supposed to read 5 chapters every week, and I finished it in 3 days. This book can be really creepy, and it definitely gave me very strong Crimson Peaks mixed with the yellow wallpaper, mixed with the Telltale Heart vibes. The atmosphere and setting really make this book for me. Noemi is normally a character that would drive me crazy. She's a 1950s debutante who knows how beautiful she is and how to use it, but I actually ended up really liking her by the end. This was really kind of my first dip into literary horror, and I can't say that I was disappointed. This was definitely 5 stars for me. So after finishing Mexican Gothic, I went on a little bit of an Ilona Andrews rabbit hole. And I listened to Burn For Me, White Hot, and Wildfire, which are the first 3 books in the Hidden Legacy series. So these books follow Nevada Baylor, and she is a private investigator who has the ability to tell when people are lying. And it's set in a world where the most powerful magic users are called primes. Her employer hands her a mission that she's not able to refuse, and that is to track down a prime who likes to burn down everything. And she fully expects to die pursuing that mission. When Connor Mad Rogan, another prime, kidnaps her, they realize that they're pursuing the same person and that it might be better if they work together. Sparks ensue. So these 3 books conclude the Nevada Baylor trilogy in the Hidden Legacy series, and I really enjoyed these books. They were my first dip into Ilona Andrews. I think I have rediscovered that paranormal romance is kind of my thing, especially when there is a healthy dose of action, and this definitely delivers. Nevada is an intensely likable and strong character who keeps Rogan in line, which is really good because Rogan is the type of alpha male character that can very easily tip over into toxic territory, and they managed to avoid that. I'll also say that it was really nice to read a couple that has disagreements, but at the end of the day knows how to communicate with each other. Although I will say this definitely develops as the trilogy goes on. It's not very great in the first book. Plus, I have to say that it was really fun to find out that Ilona Andrews is actually a married couple. Again, I would highly recommend the audiobooks. They're really great. And I gave each of these books 4 stars. The last book that I finished in February was Flames Over Frosthelm by Dave Dobson. This tells us the story about Marty and Boog. Yes, Boog. It's short for Beauregard, I guess. Who are partners and best friends in the Inquisitors Guild. When a jewelry theft case ends up leading to a mysterious cult and a doomsday prophecy, these two must race against the clock to protect Frosthelm even as the city turns against them. So this is the first book in the Inquisitors Guild series by Dave Dobson, and it's the second book of the Escapist book tours that I'm doing. And Dave was gracious enough to send me this copy of the book, and it's really nice and has that soft cover, so it was a really pleasant experience to read it. I'm not going to go too much into my review here because I did just post an in-depth blog review of this on literatimedium.com, so make sure and go check it out on that website. But I did end up giving this book 4 stars and look forward to reading the second one. Before we get into my TBR, if you liked this video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe to my channel, and let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them. So, once again, you'll notice that I didn't finish The Eye of the World this month. That is because I registered for some of these book tours, and when I registered, I thought that maybe I would get chosen for one of them, but no. I got chosen for all of them. Not that I'm complaining, because I do get to read a lot of books that I never would have known about if I hadn't registered for these book tours. And I can tell you about them too. But unfortunately, it did mean that I needed to set aside pretty much my entire physical TBR in February to read these books. This month and April are going to be pretty much catch up on books I told you I was going to read months. After that, I'm actually working on a new TBR game for myself. It is still going to include book versus adaptations, book of the month, and my tarot TBR. However, I might not have those every month because, let's face it, I haven't gotten to them in the last few months anyway. So here's what I plan on reading for March. I have 2 more books left to read for Escapist book tours, and the first one is A Touch of Light by Thiago Abdallah. This tells of a world that's kind of split up into different areas. In the domain, death is akin to shame because it chases away the seraph, which is kind of their major deity. However, in the clans to the south, death is almost seen as a necessity in order to feed life back into the land. So when a blight starts infesting the lands in the clans of the south, and a madness begins spreading across the domains that leaves its victims bloodthirsty and violent, it's pretty clear that something must be done before death comes for everyone. So this is the first in Thiago Abdallah's The Ashes of Averin series, and it's the 3rd book that I'm reading for the Escapist book tours. Thiago also sent me this nice flappy copy to read. So I've been enjoying that. I'm about 10 chapters into it so far, but by the time this goes up on YouTube, I'll probably be finished with it, and I think actually my review will be going up the same day as this video. So again, head over to literatimedium.com if you want to read an in-depth review of this book today. The next book that I'm reading for Escapist Book Tours is called Heir of Amber and Fire by Rishani Lameno, and I'm sorry if I said that wrong. I did watch a YouTube video on it, but I may have already forgotten. And this book tells about Jenica, who is a princess running from an arranged marriage, and she's also kind of searching for her heritage. So she enlists the help of a dragon seeker to find the dragon that kidnapped her mother. And that's all I know about it. So this is the first book in a trilogy that's YA fantasy called Kingdom Legacy. And I'm really excited to be reading this, if for no other reason than it had an audiobook available. And that can be kind of rare in indie publishing. So I'm super excited to listen to that, and I will be starting that soon. Also, Rishani apparently has a one-shot for D&D based on this universe if you sign up for her newsletter on her website. So I will post that in the description box below. Maybe I could arrange a playthrough on Booktubers and Battles. If you want to see that, let me know. I'll be doing an in-depth review of this in a video later this month, so stay tuned for that. And of course, the last book on my March TBR is The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. I feel like this has now become like my white whale. I haven't gotten any further in it because, again, I pretty much dropped it immediately to start reading some of these books with deadlines, but I will finish it this month. Maybe. I hope. Okay, if you made it to this point in the video, go ahead and leave me a fire emoji because that seems to be a common theme among a lot of these books. And of course, let's see what stories tomorrow brings.